Top 10 Peak Climbings in the Himalayas. Thinking about the best destinations for peak climbing in Nepal? Nepal has several snowy mountains. The highest is Mount Everest, which is also the tallest one in the world. Nepal has 1,310 identified mountains which are below 6,654 meters. The journey to the summit of those trekking peaks is recognized as peak climbing in the Himalayas. Peak climbing in Nepal is a mountaineering activity that offers a chance to climb a Himalayan peak. Technically, all trekking peaks are not same. Some peaks are challenging, which requires great skill and previous climbing experiences, and some peaks can be climbed by novice climbers. Here, I have listed top 10 peak climbing destinations in the Himalayas. In the list, first come Island Peak. Island Peak is one of the most frequently climbed and popular peaks in the Himalayas. Island Peak lies in the Khumbu Himalayan range in Everest region. One can combine Island Peak climbing with a trek to the Everest base camp as well as make a nearby ascent to Kalapatar. If you want to get a close-up view of Mount Lutsa, fourth highest mountain in the world, you will be hard-pressed to find a better vantage point than the top of Island Peak. A slightly technical yet challenging climb, this extremely popular trekking peak features a journey to the beautiful Everest region. While descending with a sense of achievement, one walk back following the cultural places, such as Pangboche, a traditional Sherpa village, Tengboche, famous for its ornately decorated Tibetan monasteries, and Namche Bazaar, the Sherpa capital and cultural center of Khumbu region. If you are seeking the thrill of adventure and wish to widen your experience towards the peak climbing beyond simply trekking in Nepal, Island Peak is the mountain for you. Island Peak is the best suited for first-time climbers to gain the climbing adventure of a lifetime. Another in peak climbing list comes Mera Peak climbing experience. Mera Peak climbing starts after half-an-hour exciting flight from Kathmandu to Lukla. The peak climbing trails passes through terraced landscapes, beautiful pristine valleys inhabited by Sherpa people. In the route, a climber crosses paddy fields, forests, some of the frozen waterfalls, and incredible glaciers with amazing views of high mountains in the Solu-Khumbu region. However, Mera Peak is less accessible than Island Peak. Nothing beats the view from Mera Peak, with three of the highest mountains on Earth, Cho-Oyu, Lutsa, and Everest. After all, the summit of the peak results into incomparably spectacular views of all the mountains' tops that are present in the Everest region. Of course, nothing can challenge the cultural experiences that come on the way to the peak. In the list, Labuki Peak climbing is considered as a challenging peak climbing experience. Labuki Peak climbing is popular among climbers also because of the marvelous views of Everest, Lutsa, Amadablam and many other smaller peaks from its summit. Labuki Peak climbing is a rewarding summit trip in the Everest region. Labuki is the massif of two mountains, Labuki East and Labuki West. Once reached at the summit, one can have a great view of Mount Everest and all major peaks in the Khumbu Valley. After the summit of the peak, one can gradually descend to the base camp for the night and heads back to Lukla. In addition to Labuki, one can go for Yala Peak climb. Yala Peak climbing is moderately easy peak climb in Nepal. The Yala Peak is in Longtong region. One of the popular trekking destinations lies in the center of Nepal Himalayan zone. The Yala Peak summit grants the superb views of Shisapangma, Longtong Lerong, Ganesh Himal, Dorje-Lakpa, Nyakanga, Gangchempo and other smaller mountains. To climb Yala Peak, one does not need any previous mountaineering experience. Any person who is moderately fit can go for Yala Peak climb. Therefore, the people who are new in climbing Himalayan peak, this peak is suitable for them. Like Yala Peak, Pasong Peak is relatively easier to climb. The peak Pasong is in the territory of Annapurna Conservation above Pasong village on the way to Thorong La Pass in the opposite of Mount Annapurna II. It is naturally formed in the shape of pyramid nearly between Mount Annapurna I and Mount Manaslu. The panoramic views from the top of the peak include view of Mount Annapurna II, Mount Annapurna IV, Tiliko Peak, Gangapurna, and the Glacier Dome. After the successful summit of peak, one can climb down and trek to Manang. From Manang, with following of Annapurna Circuit Trail, one can cross Thorong La, the world's longest mountain pass, to reach Jomson. Contrary to Pasong Peak, Chulu West Peak climbing is a bit demanding and longer hike. Like Pasong, Chulu West Peak is located just off the Annapurna Circuit Trail in Manang Valley, near the Thorong La Pass. Technically, it is a bit more demanding and longer hike. Though Chulu West Peak climbing is technically demanding, the hard efforts come with a panoramic view of the entire Annapurna and Dhaulagiri ranges, along with a close-up view of Tibet and China to the north. At the end, a peak climber finds oneself exposed to different cultures of Annapurna region during the entire period of the climbing trek. Like Pasong Peak, you can embark on Dampu's peak climbing adventure. The Dapus peak climbing is considered an easier choice to ascend in the Himalayas and hence could be the perfect choice for beginner climbers. The Dapus Peak summit provides panoramic views of Annapurna and Dhaulagiri range. The views from the top of Dapus include the sites of Dhaulagiri, Annapurna 1st, Annapurna 2nd, Annapurna 3rd, Annapurna 4th, Annapurna South, Hyunkali, Mashapya, Nilgiri, Lamjung Himal, Tukush Peak and many others. Also, it will be a trek through the colorful rhododendron forest, waterfalls, villages with mixed culture, rivers, and terraced rice fields. During the peak climbing trip, everyone gets chance to know about the unique culture and lifestyle of the different local communities like Magar, Gurung, and Pattaya. Adding to the peaking climbing list, Pokalda Peak is considered as an extensively ascending peak in Ganesh Himal. Ganesh Himal is a sub-range of the Himalayas which placed in the north-central part of Nepal. Lying just 12 kilometers southwest of Mount Everest, Pokalda Peak is one of the easier trekking peaks in the Himalayas. Just a 650-meter hike from its base camp, a climber finds oneself to the summit Pokalda Peak. Other than Everest, some famous peaks visible from its summit include Mukalu, Amadablam, and Pumori. Unlike Everest Base Camp trek, going for climbing Farkamo Peak can be another way to be in the Khumbu region. If you wanted to get a taste like that of ethnic Sherpa culture of Everest region, but without all the crowds that Everest region draws, then a trek to Farkamo Peak might just be for you. On this peak climbing trek, climbers can pass through the beautiful Rolwaling Valley with its exceptionally rich biodiversity and ethnic culture. From the top of Farkamo Peak, you can see a majestic view of nearby Mount Gauri Shankar, along with other known peaks from Longtang and Everest region. This is the region that harbors tales of the legendary Yeti, or abominable snowman. And the number 10th in the list is Tent Peak climbing. The Tent Peak climbing trek begins as usual passing through beautiful scenery, lush forests, colorful flowers, rivers, and villages. This peak is the most climbed one in the Annapurna region, and ranks third among Nepalese trekking peaks, after Island and Mera. Tent Peak lies in the midst of the Annapurna range and offers a spectacular view of the entire Annapurna sanctuary. The peak is surrounded by some of the highest mountains on Earth. Prominent among the nearby peaks are Annapurna 1st, Annapurna South and Annapurna 3rd. As a part of this trek, climber also walk into the Annapurna base camp. Finally, peak climbing treks in the Himalayas is full of adventure and thrill. Along with this, peak climbing trails also helps to expose to adventure enthusiast local cultures found different Himalayan regions. Thank you for watching.